America has always proclaimed itself the land of the free. Yet we are a country with a dark past of persecution and oppression that is bleeding into our present and our future. Stuck on the other side of the American dream, the victims of an unjust system sit ignored. In the past 40 years alone, the rate of incarceration has risen 500% in the United States, as opposed to a 51% rise in population. With the rise of mass incarceration, the American government turned to a less costly system, private, for-profit incarceration facilities.
Private prisons have achieved some cost savings, but they're not maybe the ways you would think. So, we had come into this kind of hoping to see evidence that maybe private prisons had figured out how to run more efficiently. Like, public prisons are these big bureaucracies, perhaps, and the private prisons, they figured out just some more effective way to organize their operations. You don't really see evidence of that. What you see evidence of is that private prisons just use fewer correctional officers. So they have one correctional officer per 7 inmates in private prisons and one correctional officer per 5 inmates in public prisons. So you save a lot of money just by having fewer employees. But then the question is, can you do that and still run the prison safely?
In 1971, President Nixon declared a war on drugs as a thinly veiled movement to incarcerate people of color and stifle political dissent.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse.
This was the beginning of mass incarceration, fueling decades of unjust incarceration of Black and Latino youth and leaving federal prisons full to bursting. In the 80s, with the Reagan administration, came a resurgence of privatized prisons which officials believed would relieve the strain on federal institutions while costing the government less. As a result of several cases of criminal negligence and abuses, the Obama administration began preparing to end the use of privatized prisons for federal inmates. However, with Trump's harsh immigration policies, the use of private prisons has risen.
Well, it's a total reversal from what the Obama administration did. In August 2016, the Obama administration announced that they were going to phase out the use of private prisons after a damning Department of Justice Office of Inspector General report finding that private prisons performed worse than regular federal prisons, and they couldn't find any evidence of cost savings.
For-profit facilities are used heavily in affiliation with ICE, with 67% of all immigrant detainees being held in facilities owned, operated, or both by profit-driven corporations.
Well, the private prison operators have made note of the fact that in recent years the prison populations nationally is going down somewhat. So they're very ambitious and eager to maintain their profits, and they now see immigration detention basically as their primary growth engine. So they've invested very heavily and they've gotten major government contracts to house immigrants in detention. This, of course, has been very much supported by the Trump administration, which has, ramped up its anti-immigrant rhetoric.
The tragedies we've witnessed in immigration detention facilities are not new cases of abuse and negligence. Private prisons, though they claim to be cheaper and more effective than federal facilities, turn the profit promised to their shareholders by cutting corners. Guards are paid dismal wages and not given adequate training. Prisons are understaffed and underprepared, and criminal neglect is prevalent. Along with the numerous health risks associated with being held in a private facility, these institutions offer no evidence of any kind of rehabilitation for their inmates. While public prisons don't do any better in terms of discouraging recidivism, the vicious cycle encouraged by the American prison system has in no way followed through on a process of rehabilitation. These facilities are especially discouraging when taking into consideration the racist tendencies which lie underneath the entire prison system, in both private and federal institutions. Mass incarceration targets people of color, and private prisons capitalize on that oppression.
Let's look at the numbers. They don't lie. The system is created to kind of bolster our country's racism. And so you'll see this in the prison system, you'll see this in the immigration detention system.
The Sentencing Project reports that 1 in 3 Black men will spend time behind bars in their lifetime, as opposed to 1 in 6 Latino men and 1 in 17 white men. And private facilities have been shown to incarcerate higher concentrations of inmates of color than federal facilities. Privatized prisons are a fundamentally corrupt industry, built on the shoulders of a decades-long campaign of thinly veiled racism, which continues to disproportionately affect communities of color through mass incarceration fed by a biased system. People incarcerated under trumped-up charges are being mistreated, malnourished, and denied basic rights. The guards who are supposed to care for them are underpaid, overworked, and underprepared. America was always supposed to be a symbol of freedom. It's time to make a change. This prison system is corrupt enough without trying to turn a profit.